Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
The brother Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome, bro.
What's up, y'all? Good to see y'all again.
Mark is here. He has written another book. I don't know how you and Michael Eric Dyson do it. I don't know. I don't even know. Do you just spend all your extra time writing?
I had COVID this summer, so that gave me like uninterrupted time for like 3 months.
Got you.
You said 3 months. You had COVID for 3 months.
No, but I didn't go out for 2 months after I got it. I was scared to go back outside.
Okay, all right, yeah, because like
Charlamagne
said, writing a book, it takes a lot out of you, takes a lot of energy. Like I've been writing a book. Me and my wife wrote this book for that comes out next year, and we almost done. Like we at the finish line, and it just seemed like it just took forever. It took everything out of you, bringing up old memories, good and bad. It takes a lot out of you.
Oh, it's the worst. Now I tell everybody who wants to be a writer, you got to treat writing like an appointment. A lot of times we write when we have free time. Like I go to the gym, I go to the store, I go to work. And then if I got time left, I'll write. But what you got to do is you got to put writing on your calendar and say, all right, for 3 hours, I'm writing. So somebody say, yo, you want to go out? Nah, I'm writing from this time. Treat writing like therapy, treat writing like church. Had that block of time. And then over the course of the year, them 2 hours turn into, 100 hours or 700 hours or 1,000 hours, however much time you do. And then you got a book.
The name of the book is Except for Palestine. How do you know, before we get into the book, how do you know what topics you want to turn into a book, or what topics you just want to tweet about, or what topics you may just want to write a blog about? How do you know this is what you wanted to write a book about?
That's a good question, man. And now that you're in the kind of the book business, is one of the things you got to think about all the time is that, this is something that might have me hyped today, but in 24 months, will people still care about it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest question I have. Like if the Gorilla Glue story is interesting as hell to me, and I want to write about it, but I know that in 24 months, nobody's even going to remember that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whereas like my brother Carl Hart, who's like, I want to write about being a professor and write about drug use. 10 years from now, you could talk about that.
Yeah.
So for me, the question was when I wrote a book back in November called We Still Here about the pandemic and about that, I was like, all right, this book is going to matter at least in the next year or two. And when we look back on history, I want this to be on the record. And with the Palestine book, it's like, all right, this is an eternal topic. People on the left who ignore Palestine has been forever. So that's something I know will go. And the other thing is, honestly, is what do Black people need? This is the first book I've written that isn't about Black people, right? Except for Palestine, it's the first book I've written that wasn't directly tied to Black people. And normally I'm saying, what are our biggest issues? Policing, mental health, education. And so I try to write about the issues that I think will leave our community better than I found it.
So why this book? So let's break down this book.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, I got fired from CNN a couple years ago, and part of it is like, fuck them, right? I'm not going to be silenced on an issue just because I get fired from a job or because I lose opportunity. I got to be principled. I got to keep going, right? You got to work through that. But also, I felt I had actually started this book before then. And I wanted to be in a position where I could actually tell the story of what it means to be progressive. And I've been an activist since I was 16 years old. I've been organized against police brutality, against for immigrants' rights, to free Mumia, all that stuff. And the left be hype about all those issues. And then when you get to Israel-Palestine, they be like, yeah, I don't know about that one. Or they get funny with their calculation. And so for me, it was important to tell that story right now, because we're going into a new presidency. We got an opportunity to change some things, right? Mm-hmm. So this is about Palestine, but it's also about a bigger conversation about who do we want Joe Biden to be? What are we going to make him be? Is he going to be the status quo, or is it going to be something different? And so for me, Palestine is one of many issues where we can make that change.
Mark, you said it, people, you are a voice in our community, right? So Black people look to you for information and a lot of other things. Why should Black people care about what's going on in Palestine? What's the parallels?
One issue is that I think about Palestine as an anti-racist struggle, right? When there's a professor, Ruth Wilson Gilmore, that talks about racism, and for her, racism is a system that subjects certain people to premature death, right? Here in the United States, the thing that makes you more likely to die early, the thing that makes you more likely to die of COVID, the thing that makes you more likely to pay more for insurance, the thing that makes you more likely to get evicted and get kicked out of school and get arrested and get executed is being Black. Mm-hmm. And so in Palestine and in Israel, the thing that makes you more likely, the thing that makes you socially vulnerable is being racialized as a Palestinian. And so for me, part of it is saying, look, in the same way we cared about South Africa because it was the right thing to do, but it was an anti-racist struggle, in the same way that we could look in other countries and see an anti-racist struggle, this is an anti-racist struggle. The other thing is our fates are bound together, right? White supremacy don't got a passport, right? It doesn't stop at the border. White supremacy is a global system. So if we're going to dismantle white supremacy, if we're going to dismantle racism, if we're going to dismantle sexism, homophobia, whatever, we have to look globally. And also, I think that there's value in just doing it because it's the right thing to do. You know, there are, if Jewish people were under occupation in Israel right now by Palestinians, I'd be fighting on behalf of my Jewish brothers and sisters, right? Mm-hmm. Just like I fight for Jewish brothers and sisters here in the United States and around the world against anti-Semitism. You know, I fight for the rights of people who are vulnerable no matter where they are, whether it's Muslims in Kashmir or in China, Uyghurs in China. I don't care where it is. My job is to speak out because that's how I was taught. That's how I was trained.
What are the misconceptions about the Palestine-Israel struggle?
Yeah, and break that down a little bit, because a lot of people might not know or might have forgot, because we haven't spoken. I think the last time we spoke about it was actually when you were
here. Are you a big mentor?
Yeah.
The biggest misconception is that this is them people always been fighting. That's just what they do. Right. We had the same challenge with Black people. Right. If there is a shooting and 30 people die in Chicago over the weekend, you know, we might be like, damn. But in the back of a lot of people's minds, because of how white supremacy has trained us, we're also kind of like, yeah, that's what niggas do. Right. We kill each other. And so people aren't outraged. But if I say 30 people died in Westchester this weekend, there was a shooting in Connecticut. People be like, oh my God, what happened? Who died? Has there been an arrest? We need more, because there's a sense that this shouldn't happen here.
Correct.
So one of the misconceptions is that Arabs and just be fighting, right? And they've been doing this for centuries. This is not a centuries-long fight. The second misconception is that this is a religious battle, that people are fighting over competing interpretations of the Bible. No, this is a battle over land. This is a battle. This is a struggle against colonialism. This is a struggle for people's rights, to get people's homes back, to get the right to move freely, the right to be a full citizen. This is a battle that ain't got nothing, I won't say nothing to do with religion, but it's not centered in religion, you know, and so that's another battle. And then I think the other thing is that there's nothing we can do. You know, one of the worst pieces of anti-Semitism is the belief that there is some secret Jewish conspiracy of power that can't be defeated. No, we can organize politically and stand in solidarity with each other and defeat it. President Obama helped put together the Iran deal. People said we'll never beat AIPAC. You know, there's too many lobbies to stop Iran deal. But we did it because we organized. We believed in ourselves, and we didn't believe in those anti-Semitic myths. No, we believe that organized people can defeat organized power, and that's what I want us to do. And again, that's why Palestine for me is important, but it's also a model of what we can do around the world.
Yeah, I think it's very hard for Black people in America to see themselves standing up and fighting for someone in another country, because we're still battling oppression and systemic racism here.
Word. You know, and that's why my priority issue is battling systemic racism in the United States. My primary issue is trying to dismantle white supremacy here in the United States. But I do think there's value in solidarity. If you think about, because a lot of these same people that say they love Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. But Malcolm X writes an article in the Egyptian Gazette in, I believe, September of 1964 called Zionist Logic, where he's critiquing the Israeli occupation. Mm-hmm. You know, Martin Luther King was saying we can't go to Vietnam, and here's why. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you think about our biggest leaders, they had global visions. They had a global analysis. And it wasn't just because they were good people who cared about people elsewhere, although that was true. They understood that we can't disconnect this thing. We can't end war and poverty and racism if we don't have a global vision. Mm-hmm. And so I get why Black people are like, look, I can't worry about the Palestinians. I got to worry about getting shot by the police right here. I ain't mad at you. But for those of us that have that global vision, it's for us to make those connections and also to understand why people are dealing with what they're dealing with right here.
Now, somebody would ask, why are you so passionate about it?
You know, I'm passionate about it, but again, I'm not more passionate about that than I am about abolishing prisons here in the United States. I'm not more passionate about that than I am, you know, providing mental health services for Black folk here, or building, you know, educational opportunities for people here. When I build in my own community. You know, I built Uncle Bobby's bookstore in Philly for Black people. I built the People's Education Center in Philly for Black people. So, because sometimes there's a sense that like almost like I went native and like that's all I'm worried about is Palestinians. That's a very small slice of what I do. but that's the most controversial part. So that's what you'll see on the news the most. That's what you'll hear about the most. So when I put a book out called Except for Palestine, people will be like, oh, another book on Palestine. I was like, no, bro, that's the first book on Palestine. I published 8 books. This is the first one on Palestine. And it's probably, but it's important. But I'm passionate about it, partly because that's how I was raised. Malcolm was passionate about internationalism. Du Bois was passionate about internationalism. Angela Davis was passionate about internationalism. So my heroes, the people whose shoulders I stand on, taught me to be international in my vision. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I want folk to get free. Yes, I've spent time there. Yes, I have friends. Yes, I got connections around the world in these different areas that make me have a personal stake in it a little bit. But it's really just about love and justice, man, wanting to see justice everywhere.
It makes sense, right, what you say about, having the connection, because it's almost like we need the strength in numbers. Because when you think about, one of Malcolm's visions that went unfinished was he had plans to take, the cause of racism to the United Nations and charge the U.S. government with failure to protect its black citizens. So I wonder if we could build that same case globally.
We absolutely can. Just last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, the International Criminal Court found that it had jurisdiction to investigate Israel for war crimes, right? Now, that's a major move, not because it's Israel. And let me be very clear. I don't want Israel to only be investigated. I don't want only Israel to be investigated for war crimes. The United States should be investigated for war crimes. France should be investigated. Germany should be investigated. Everybody should be investigated for war crimes. But up until now, who gets investigated for war crimes? African nations. Who gets convicted? Uganda, Rwanda, Sudan, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, and they ain't wrong. You know what I'm saying? But they're not the only places. But the powerful nations are able to defend themselves or fight the court or be like, we don't care what the court says, right? China does the same thing. So if we can find ways to hold powerful nations accountable in international courts and the United Nations, if we can have an international conversation about justice, then we are fulfilling Malcolm's dream, because that's what we need. The other thing is, if you look at our tradition, we got to stop thinking about ourselves as isolated. We're only a minority if we think about ourselves in the United States. What Malcolm was saying, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching, was that that the Asiatic black man and woman, I would argue, is global, and that we're not part of a minority in the United States. We are an international majority. It's white folk that are the minority. That's what Malcolm was saying in the Message to the Grassroots, right? That famous speech he gave in November, I believe 10th of 63. He's saying, look, like the Bandung Conference of 55, he said all the revolutions we've had, it's when we realize that we're not alone, that we together. And if we together, we can win.
Now, with the change in power of course, Trump leaving and Biden coming in, what do you expect this, I guess, I was going to say organization, but this presidential campaign to do for the Middle East?
Nothing. The United States doesn't have feelings. It has interests. And the United States has an interest in controlling the Middle East, just like the British and the French had an interest in controlling the Middle East, just like the British and the French and so forth, and Belgium and whoever had interest in controlling Africa. The United States ain't gonna do nothing different. One of the things I talk about in Except for Palestine is that Donald Trump, in many ways, becomes the boogeyman. We say, Donald Trump moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, which goes against international law. Oh, he cut these funds. He did that. True. But Donald Trump is just continuing a bipartisan American policy in the Middle East. We have plundered the Middle East and Africa under Trump, under Clinton, under Bush, under Obama, under Carter, all the way back. So I don't expect Biden to be any different. And it's not just on the Middle East. It's on other issues. Is Biden better than Trump? 1,000,000 times better. Am I glad I voted for Biden over Trump? Absolutely. I ain't lost a minute of sleep about that. But I also manage my expectations. My vision for what Joe Biden is going to do is more about what we're going to do. If we organize and push him, he'll go somewhere. In the 70s, he didn't want to desegregate schools. He was against gay marriage before he was for it. He was, you're going down the list of the crime, but all the stuff we already know. But we pushed him. Again, politicians don't have feelings, they have interests. And until we make him do better, we ain't going to get better. So I don't put my hope in politicians. I put my faith in the people.
Why do white men like Joe Biden get the benefit of the doubt? Why do they get the opportunity to evolve, but we don't? It seems like it's black men.
There is no room for black men, or really sometimes, and really women too, to evolve. It'll be like, nah, but in 1968, Charlamagne said this. In 1992, Envy did this. I saw him. I was there. It's like, yeah, but it's 2021 now, right? So I'm smarter now. I got more information. Why do you want me to stay in the same place of ignorance, right? Or Why do you make the same mistake?
Right.
But part of it is there's something counterintuitive about white supremacy. We in the old lessons, it was, my uncle loves the devil because the devil gives him nothing, right? It's like it's like the inverted logic, right? The less they love us, the more we want them. The more we aspire to them. We give white people more chances than we give ourselves. We give our enemy in any area, whether you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about life. I'm not just talking about racial lines. I'm not saying, white people are our enemy. I'm saying whoever our enemy is, we give them more justice and more mercy than we will give somebody we have known our entire lives. And that's white supremacy working at every level. We got to evict white supremacy from our consciousness if we're going to be successful. You want to give Joe Biden a pass, which I don't think you should, go ahead. But you got to give black people that same pass, man. But we've been taught not to do that.
That's right. Why is the book called Except for Palestine?
Because in the activist movement, there's these people we call PEPs, Progressive Except for Palestine. You know what I mean? So they will be at all the marches, all the rallies, all the stuff, and then when you say, "Yo, it's time for Palestine, let's go," they like, I don't know about that one. And so this book is playing on the idea of the PEPs, but not just the individual PEP, but the policy PEPs, right? Donald Trump cut funds in 2018, to give you one quick example, for UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency. That means that refugees weren't going to get food. Refugees and people anywhere in the West Bank aren't going to get access to school in the same way. They're not going to get medical care, all that stuff, right? It was the cruelest thing you could ever imagine. Nobody said a word. If that had happened in any other country, we'd be saying something about it.
Wow.
We just don't care.
What concerns you moving forward as far as the United States position internationally?
That we will continue what we've been doing for hundreds of years, which is imperialism and colonialism. After World War I, it no longer became cool to acquire land by force. You couldn't just fight somebody, shoot them, and take their land. But now we have new kinds of colonialism and new types of imperialism where we control their economies, we control their budgets, we control their movement. And it's not just the United States that does that. A couple of nations do that. My concern is that we're going to keep doing it because it makes our lives easier. Who doesn't like using that app to buy this? Who doesn't like going online and downloading that? Who doesn't like doing these things, right? Mm-hmm. Our lives are easier when we have control of capital in the United States, right? We all like to get the benefits of being a first world nation, but sometimes what we don't see is the ugly underside. Malcolm X talked about the victims of American democracy. Right? The victims of American democracy are poor folk who are dying of COVID in Rikers Island. There are people who can't get access to a vaccine right now. There are also the people around the globe who are dying from U.S. power. My fear is that the United States is going to continue to do it, and we're going to continue to do nothing about it.
What are your thoughts on the vaccine? Are you taking the vaccine?
Man, I'm like Superman right now. I had COVID. I got my 2 vaccines. I'm good. Like,
you got your vaccine already?
Safe. Yeah, I got the vaccine.
How the hell you get the vaccine,
How you get the
Mark?
vaccine? I don't hear no.
I got a guy.
You ain't no essential worker.
Word.
That's why I am an essential worker, as an educator, as a food service worker on Uncle Bobby's.
You're right. Damn, my bad.
But that ain't why I got it. I'm in New York and in Philly, and in Philly where I live, the Black Doctors Consortium was trying to get it to the most vulnerable people every day. But what was happening was, at the end of the day, they had vaccines that they had to throw away because Black folk weren't getting them.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, like, we can either throw away, you could get it. I was like, where you at? I went down there and got my vaccine because and called friends to get vaccine because I believe that the vaccine is healthy. And not because I trust science or medicine. I just know white people wouldn't be taking it themselves if they thought it was going to kill them. Once I saw rich white people taking it, I felt a little more comfortable with it. And so now I want all of us to get it as quickly as possible so that we can return to some semblance of normalcy. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you one more quick thing. In my neighborhood, the white people, and it's not in my neighborhood, in Philadelphia, it's the white people that went to the hood where they were supposed to be giving vaccines to Black people, and they got them. They went online and registered, they signed up, and you can't deny them the vaccine because they white. But what they basically did was, and you see this in LA too, in LA they're actually using fake zip codes to get the vaccine, and they're pushing poor Black people out the way. So we got to be mindful of that too.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. You voted Democrat for the first time ever this
year?
For
the first time, man. And I've been getting killed on internet every election since I've been on the Breakfast. This is my first time on the Breakfast Club back in 2016 because I said I wasn't going to vote for Hillary. And I've been a Green Party member for since 2000. And this year I said, I gotta make a different choice. I couldn't sleep at night with Donald Trump in office for another 4 years.
So why didn't you vote for President Obama? Just curious.
It's a good question. It's a fair question. I wanted to build I believe that we have to build a powerful third party movement. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Obama was black would have been the only reason I would have voted for him. For me, Obama's politics were at odds with mine on so many key issues. And if it had been Obama, if it had been Edwards, if it had been Clinton that year, I would have voted against them too. I wanted to support a radical movement. I wanted to support I wanted to help build something. And I'm glad I did it. And Obama won, so it works out. So then, but when the stakes are high, we got to make these tough decisions. And I think the difference between the Obama election and this election is, in many ways, in many elections, the difference between Democrats and Republicans are relatively minor. There are differences, but it's not the same as Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a whole different animal, and I mean that in every sense, right? Mm-hmm. Donald Trump was something else, and that was something that we couldn't allow to linger for another 4 years. And so for me, that was the difference. And some people are going to say, well, why didn't you just vote for Hillary? I would say I probably should have.
Wow.
I probably could have.
Why? Why do you say that now in hindsight?
Because there's 500,000 people dead, and I watched them die. There are people. There are Muslims who were denied rights, who weren't allowed to come into the country for the last 4 years. I watched children put in cages, and my intention wasn't to have an exercise of ego. It wasn't to pretend that I knew more. It wasn't to be lefter than thou. It wasn't none of that. It was that I really believe in building a radical left-wing movement. And I think a lot of people heard me say, because I said on the show, we can afford to lose an election. I wasn't saying that we can afford to lose an election, like let's throw an election away for a thought experiment and let Donald Trump be president. What I was saying, and I believe I was saying at the NBA at the time, was if we lose this election, we'll survive, because Black folk have survived slavery. We've survived Jim Crow. We've survived war. We can afford to lose an election. We can't afford to lose our values. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, but what I also did was advocate vote trading. I said, look, if you're in a safe state, vote your conscience. If you're in Texas, you can vote for whoever you want. You can vote for me, right? If you're in Pennsylvania, do something different. And if you have friends who are in the opposite state, y'all can trade your vote so you can still get the registered vote for the Green Party, but we don't lose any ground. But I don't think that message came clear. What came clear was me saying I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Again, I'm not going to be vote shamed, right? It wasn't a moral crime to what I did, but strategically it didn't work. And ultimately Donald Trump was president, and I got to take some responsibility for that.
Well, that's only because people don't have left brain, right brain. So they automatically think you say you're not voting for Hillary, that means you're voting for Trump. Like, no, there's other people to vote.
There are other options.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, congratulations too. I see that you're going to be on the Black News channel.
Yes, so I'm real hype about this, man. I got 2 new jobs this year, despite I've been canceled a lot of times. Not as many times as you, but I've been canceled a lot of times.
I've definitely been canceled a lot.
But it's like annual now for me. So I got a job at Al Jazeera, which is where I'm at right now. I'm about to start my show called Up Front, where I do weekly international news. I'm literally about to interview the Attorney General of Rwanda about this case of the brother. You know him from probably Hotel Rwanda. Who was trapped and taken back to Rwanda, and he's now on trial there in a sham trial, and we're trying to fight for that, against that. And now I'm also at Black News Channel, which is a channel that started a year ago, but COVID hit. Mm-hmm. We got new leadership. We got a whole great lineup, and I'm going to have an 8 o'clock news show, 8 p.m. on Black News Channel. We're in 52 million homes, so this isn't like bootleg TV. We're going to be on all the major cable networks. We're in all of them now. My show launches the first week in April. It's going to be called Black News Tonight. I'm going to have Black people on. It's going to be, I'm trying to do what we did at BET, and I'm still at BET, by the way. I'm trying to do what we did at BET, which is to have Black news, but not just politics. I really, in some ways, I'm trying to do what y'all do. It's like politics is important. We got to talk about it. But like I mentioned earlier, that Gorilla Glue story is something that I would have talked about, right? Oh, yeah. And had Black women talk about why this story is important and why we shouldn't be clowning that girl. I would have the conversation about drugs. I want to have the conversation about music. Bobby Shmurda's home. I want to have the conversation about, look, why are we celebrating Bobby Shmurda? But let me be very clear. I'm celebrating Bobby Shmurda. Shout out to Bobby Shmurda. Okay. But but a lot of people on the outside are like, why would you be celebrating me to 7 years in prison? I think because he ain't right. And I respect that. Mm-hmm. And people be like, why are you as a PhD holding professor celebrating somebody for not ratting? Because it's an ethical and moral principle we got to uphold, and it's a deeper issue.
Yeah, I changed the language a little bit too, right? Because for me, I totally understand the not ratting thing. I respect Bobby Shmurda and Rowdy Rebel because we live in an era where nobody wants to be held accountable for the consequences of their actions. Bobby and Rowdy, they held themselves accountable.
Absolutely.
They went and did their time. I respect that. They knew that it was consequences and repercussions to the things that they did, and they did it. They didn't bring nobody else down in the process. They just went and handled their handle. That's what I respect.
Absolutely.
I respect that too. But part of it's also about keeping your word. So it's about being accountable for your actions. It's also about keeping your word. If the three of us go and commit a crime and I'm like, yo, I got y'all no matter what happened, whoever get caught, everybody don't say shit. And then I get caught and I start saying shit. That's an ethical and moral issue. And it's not like I'm turning you in because I want justice. I'm turning you in so that I can be out. You know what I mean? That's why Tekashi is such a problematic figure for me. And the fact that he's on the street and other people are in jail says that snitching culture and rat culture doesn't keep any moral stability in our nation. That's all about locking people up. So if I say like fuck Tekashi, it's not because I'm trying to live some life I ain't live. It's not about none of that, right? It's about me trying to hold a standard for our community. And that's the kind of conversation I would want to have on TV. And now I got a show where I don't have to fight to get that on the air. I don't have to battle to say what I'm going to talk about. I can say we're going to talk about Afro-Palestinians. We're going to talk about black people in COVID. We're going to talk about Gorilla Glue. We're going to talk about, we ain't going to talk about Tekashi, but we'll talk about the people who stood tall. We'll do that in one show in 1 hour, and I can have all my friends on to talk about it. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm glad that you have a show because I think it's a shame that, CNN, MSNBC throughout the week, there's only 2 shows hosted by black people. You got Joy Reid on MSNBC and Don Lemon on CNN. Throughout the whole rest of the day on CNN, MSNBC, it's just white people. CNN is just literally you can watch CNN from 10 a.m. to whatever time Don Lemon comes on, and it's just white women, white women, white women, white women, then Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon. Anderson Cooper, Cuomo, then Don Lemon.
Right, exactly. And it's gonna sound like I'm hating because I got fired, but like that's not what TV is supposed to look like. You know what I mean? And we need more representation. But the problem is we live in a world where black is seen as particular and white is seen as universal. Mm-hmm. So that's why you have all white bachelors, right? That's why Living Single is a black show. And
we finally got a black bachelor now, though. We finally got one now.
Finally, after 24 seasons, right? This is the most racist season of The Bachelor I've seen. People going to antebellum parties, all kinds of shit.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but what happens, right? People say, oh, it's a black person. That's not for us. If it's white, it's for everybody. Friends is for everybody. Living Single is for black people.
Right.
Same damn show, right? We have until people understand that black people are human beings with a universal experience, we won't have that. Now, I don't care whether white people ever see me as human. I'm past that stage in my life. Now I'm about what do black people think? What do black people need? And that's why I'm happy to be at BET. That's why I'm happy to be at BNC. That's why I'm happy to be at Al Jazeera. And I'm happy to have all these damn jobs after getting fired for 2 years. And you know what I mean? Look,
there you have it.
Life is good.
You said something real quick. We can end on this. Like, man, if they can't ever see us as human, right? If we can't get human rights, how are we ever going to get civil rights? Right.
That's right. The idea that black people are human is a relatively new idea to a whole lot of people. For some, it's a futuristic one, We have to either convince the world that we're human, which has not worked because that's not how white supremacy works, or we have to get to a space of saying, I don't care, and building our own and fighting and having a real people's struggle for justice. But that means we got to support each other. We got to stand up for each other. That's why the snitching thing bothers me so much, right? It's not some street shit for me. It's about saying, what's our internal code? What's our value for ourselves? What can we do? What can we build? And that's why I love the fact that y'all are building. So I like that Envy is doing stuff in the community. I love watching those. I apologize. I don't know the brother's name, but when y'all doing the real estate stuff,
Caesar.
Yeah, you and the brother Caesar. I love that you're trying to educate people on how to take care of themselves and how to get stable. I love the fact that Charlamagne is like, yo, I'm gonna do a book imprint. I text Charlamagne sometimes like, yo, I'm fucking proud of you all the time, and it's like, and people don't even need to know necessarily that we have that exchange, but you know what I mean. I want you to know in public how proud I am of you, because it's like, there's a long tradition of black folk trying to build stuff for us, right? Hakeem Madabouti at Third World Press. That matters. You know what I mean? When no one else will publish Gwendolyn Brooks or Frances Cress Welsing and others. Shout out to Frances Cress Welsing. May she rest in peace. Like, black folk had to do it. You know what I mean? Books don't get sold, so we open bookstores like Hakeem's and Marcus Books, and you got a book imprint that's doing the same thing. And as a writer, as a bookstore owner, I'm proud of that as well. So it's like we gotta build this shit for ourselves, and if we do, we will win. And that's what this thing is about. And then we ain't got to worry about if they see us as human or not, because we're already won.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think people may not realize it, but even with the informant thing, the snitch thing, it's generational trauma too. You watch movies like Judas and the Black Messiah. You think about stories like Denmark Vesey and how, his slave revolt got, dismantled because somebody told on him. Like, it's generational trauma, whether we realize it or not.
That's exactly right. And that's why I say, like, for me, the idea of the rat isn't just about the person that doesn't want to do time for a drug charge or a murder beef, right? For me, it's about the person that will go on TV with our open enemies and say dumb shit, right? You got a brother like, and I think his name is Coleman Hughes, that'll go on into Congress and talk about why we don't need reparations when 75% of black people support reparations, allowing white people to think that this is a debate. There's no debate in the black community about whether or not we need reparations, right? It's a debate about if they're going to give it to us. It's a debate about how, what it's going to look like, but ain't no debate about whether we get it or not. But these black men and women will allow themselves to be presented as representations of our people when they are enemies of our people. And that, for me, is way more of a rat move to me in some ways than snitching on an individual criminal case.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Well, thank you for joining us, brother.
Except for Palestine, it's out right now.
That's right.
And you got a co-author with this book too, right?
Yes. Shout out to Mitchell Plitnick, a Jewish American brother who is fighting for Palestinian rights. He's brilliant. He's wonderful. Check that book out. It's called Except for Palestine. You can also grab the old book. It's old. It came out in November. We Still Here: Pandemic, Policing, Protest, and Possibility. Just trying to pay these bills. And lastly, you can go to UncleBobbies.com and check out all these great authors. You can check out all the great merchandise. We got like this Black Love hoodie and all this other stuff. We got all kinds of stuff going on. But most importantly, support the movement of Black authors. Don't just buy stuff from me. Support Black authors around the country. You can buy it from my bookstore or other Black bookstores, and support Black imprints. Because when Charlamagne has, and I know some of the people that's coming out, I ain't gonna say because I don't know if you announced it yet, but the people coming out on your publishing house, some of them are amazing. And I want to make sure that they hit the top of the list so that they know that Black people read books, Black people buy books, and we don't need white people to be successful.
That's right. Tamika Mallory, State of Emergency. It'll be out May 11th. And Anita Kopacz.
That's it.
We'll be out
Buy
on
it from Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books.
We had a call about that. Trust me, Tamika has been on Simon & Schuster's ass like Uncle Bobby's. Make sure Uncle Bobby's getting in my books.
That's it. They calling me to say, y'all, I love y'all. Appreciate you.
Peace, Mark.
All right, brother.
Peace.